Of Democracy and Social Class, Post-Materialism, and Education, a bivariate presentation in pol242Y1.
We seek to measure the perception of democracy in Latin America as the region has both democratic and authoritarian regimes, which is atypical of a geopolitical region. Our research question is, does an individual social class, materialism, or education affect their perception of democracy as a well-functioning system of governance? And our dataset is the World Value Survey Wave 4, Latin America. The number of respondents in the survey is 6,716. The tests we will be using include cross-tabulations, tau-c, and chi-squared.
The dependent variable to be measured is an individual's perception of democracy, and we have constructed an index with 3 indicators to measure this concept. Their exact wording and question number can be seen in the chart.
A reliability analysis of the proposed index to determine the suitability of indicators for formulating an index reveals an alpha score of 0.722. None of the indicators should be dropped, as the alpha score decreases significantly if we were to drop any of them. The central tendency of the index is measured by the mean, which has a value of 4.344. This is in disagreement response to most of the 3 indicators. The dispersion of the index is measured by a standard deviation, which is 2.09, indicating that most responses are relatively close to the mean. The shape of the frequency distribution is measured by skewness, having a value of negative 0.089, indicating that almost all values fall on the mean, and the kurtosis, which is the peakiness of the distribution, has a value of negative 0.139, indicating a less distinct peak for this distribution compared to a standard distribution.
First independent variable is social class. Seymour or M. Lipset supports that low social status predisposes individuals to more authoritarian political and religious values, as they view politics as simplified black and white issues, in part due to lower education levels. In light of Lipset's findings, it is expected that social class will positively affect perception of democracy, as individuals from the lower class support authoritarianism standing opposed to democracy due to their simplified understanding of issues arising from a lack of education, while upper class individuals possess a more complex understanding of politics, allowing for tolerant views lending themselves to support for democracy. The null hypothesis is that there is no relationship between social class and perceptions of democracy.
The second independent variable is education. David H. Kamen's research states that as education levels within a society increase, the dispositions of its citizenry become more bureaucratized, which lend themselves over to modernity. This disposition towards modernity, having individualistic tendencies, then acts as the main source of attitudes and orientations towards the civic culture of democracy. Given Kamen's findings, it is expected that education will positively affect perceptions of democracy, as more educated individuals become more aligned to modernity, an orientation lending itself to democratic ideals. The null hypothesis is that there is no relationship between education level and perceptions of democracy.
Third and final independent variable is post-materialism. Bradley H. Nickens states that empirical evidence supports the hypothesis that post-material values are positively associated with direct political participation, and as the level of post-materialists increases in a society, the level of participatory behavior also increases. In light of Nickens' hypothesis, we expect that there will be a positive relationship between those who espouse to be post-materialists and positive perception of democracy. Due to the participatory nature of post-materialist agenda, perceptions of democratic regime would almost necessarily result due to the tolerance and promulgation of participation within democratic institutions. The null hypothesis would state that there is no relationship between post-material values and perception of democracy.
A chi-square test produces a p-value of 0.000, confirming a high significance between social class and perception of democracy. A tau-c test reveals little to no association with a negative 0.034 score. Looking at the highlighted areas on the main diagonal and off diagonal, no relationship can be seen to exist.
The chi-square test reveals a p-value of 0.000, showing a significant finding between education and perception of democracy. A tau-c test reveals a negative 0.085 value, which is too weak to claim any relationship. Looking at the highlighted areas on the chart, no relationship on either the off-diagonal or main diagonal is formed.
A chi-square test reveals a p-value of 0.0003, rounding up, indicating a less than a 1 in 1,000 probability that these results are due to chance. A tau-c value of negative 0.04 indicates that there is no relationship between perception of democracy and post-materialism. Looking at the highlighted areas on the chart, no relationship is found on the off-diagonal or main diagonal.
3 independent variables, the null hypothesis is supported, although all findings were significant. None of our extensions or reversals of existing theories were justified. The literature may not have been supported by these findings, as support for the attitudes and orientations conducive to democracy cannot be extended to conceptions of the shortcomings of this system. Recommended research for the future would entail quantifying the relationship between civic engagement and democracy, as a necessary link we expected to exist did not. Another area of future research should examine is the relationship between social class and democracy, as low social class has proven to produce authoritarian values in Lipset's research, which can be seen as the opposite of democratic values, although high social class does not necessarily entail democratic values.
The following 3 slides are syntax. Thank you.